Mamaroneck School's proposed administrative restructuring draws fire from teachers.
And Governor Spitzer takes aim at local Assemblyman George Latimer.
Will he or won't he? You'll find out more from Mamaroneck Village Trustee Tom Murphy.
Village of Mamaroneck settles a lawsuit, but which one?
Why it's now harder to find those emergency khakis and t-shirts.
And Shakespeare comes to town. Those stories and more are coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Hello and welcome to this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witsch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. On February 27th, Mamaroneck School Superintendent Dr. Paul Freed presented his administrative restructuring proposal to the school board and the community. Briefly, the restructuring would create an assistant superintendent of student support services, including special education and all related services, guidance services for grades 6 through 12, health services, and 504s. The Director of Health Education, Physical Education, and Athletics would no longer deal with health services and 504s. The more controversial, or at least more highly discussed issues at the meeting concerned the replacement of academic and guidance department chairs with directors of the departments who must have administrative degrees as well as academic qualifications. Dr. Freed estimated that the total first-year cost of these changes would be about $250,000, or up to $361,000 if some or all of the new directors were unable to teach one course. These figures were calculated by deducting net savings from the new expenditures. A description of the proposed changes is available on the school district website, www.mamkschools.org. Dr. Freed addressed one of the criticisms that the plan came from the top down without the input from teachers and administrators, many of whom were shocked to see New York Times ads seeking applicants even before they knew of Dr. Freed's plans, and certainly before any school board approval, which has not yet occurred. After Dr. Freed's presentation and board questions to him, the public was given an opportunity to ask questions and comment, and around 40 people spoke. A large majority of the opposing comments were by teachers and administrators and many department chairs whose positions are in jeopardy.
Hello, I'm Mike DiGennaro. I've been with the school for 32 years. I live on Pinebrook Boulevard in New Rochelle, but I did bring my kids to this school because it's a place that I really love. In the superintendent's proposal, there's an assumption that departments have not and cannot mentor themselves, that new teachers, as well as veterans and everyone in between, require the expertise of some master teacher director who will help them hone their skills, develop curricula, and meet the many needs of students in an academic climate that seems to be always changing. What I want to make clear to the board and the community is that by sharing practices and mentoring one another, members of the English department already help each other grow as teachers. I personally have had 6 teachers actually take my courses along with the students. I assure you that this sharing of ideas and approaches was not one-sided, that we all learned from one another, that my own teaching techniques were sharpened by having other teachers in my classroom. This has been going on among all teachers, and from what I've seen in all departments for as long as I've been at MHS these past 30 years. I've never discussed these experiences with central administration, sort of don't ask, don't tell. So perhaps they are unaware of our practices. Our decisions to visit one another and discuss our approaches were born out of our individual desires to be our best, not from any administrative direction. I also don't believe that an outside director could ever have achieved the kind of teamwork and camaraderie that George Aronhalf, Phil Restaino, and Janice Landrum have brought to our department. All great teachers and great leaders who've engendered trust and loyalty in their colleagues. If it's really all about students and their education, I can't imagine how the proposed model could ever equal what we have done and what we know must be done to improve education in our school.
The board will continue to discuss this proposal, and that discussion also will be part of the budget approval process in the district.
As reported in the Journal News, Mamaroneck Village will pay $1.5 million to settle a lawsuit filed by 3 former police officers and 1 former sergeant who say they were fired because they spoke out about corruption in the department. The Board of Trustees voted to end the 5-year legal saga that involves allegations of a sex scandal, favoritism, cover-ups, and ticket rigging within the ranks of the village's police force. The former officers are John DiCioccio, Paul Michelizzi, Jeremy Skian, and Sergeant Peter Monticelli. They were brought up on a litany of disciplinary charges stemming from the release of secretly recorded conversations the men made with several department members, including Police Chief Edward Flynn. Then they made public their allegations of high-level corruption, and that started a federal investigation into the department. Village trustees voted 3-2 in favor of the settlement and 4-1 in favor of bonding the $1.5 million. That bond payment will be spread over 10 years. 3 votes were needed to approve the settlement resolution. 4 votes were needed to approve the bond resolution. Mayor Phil Trifoletti, voted against both resolutions. Trustee Bill Payanessa voted against the settlement, but joined Democratic trustees Murphy and Pergola Ryan and Hofstetter in voting in favor of the bond. According to the newspaper story, the village settled the lawsuit with prejudice, and the ex-officers will receive an additional $500,000 from the village's insurance carrier. They will not, however, be allowed to work for any Village of Mamaroneck agency. The trustees refused to comment on any other details, citing a confidentiality agreement.
Mamaroneck trustee Tom Murphy sat down with me to discuss a number of issues, including whether he'll be running for village mayor in the fall. So Tom, I'm hearing rumors. Are you running for mayor in the fall?
You know what? I seriously considered running for mayor. It's something I might do in the future, but you have to talk with my family, and trying to juggle just being a trustee, working in the city, and the responsibilities of raising a family, earning a living. I just don't have the time right now to run for mayor.
So you're not running for mayor in fall 2007, but you will run for re-election as trustee?
Well, one thing at a time. I have no intention of running for mayor this year, but maybe sometime in the future, and I'm always going to be involved, I think, in the Village of Mamaroneck one way or the other. But I think the Democrats, I'm sure, will field a candidate who will be ready and able to do the job, but it just won't be me this year.
Okay. On to other things. A lot of lawsuits in the Village of Mamaroneck. One of them was just settled against the police department.
Okay, yes.
Not the police department.
Against the village by police officers.
Correct,
yes.
by those officers that were discharged and subject to the disciplinary hearings.
Right.
Okay. How's everyone feeling about that? Was it a unanimous vote to settle it?
No, it wasn't. It was a 3-2 vote to settle the lawsuit. But to settle the lawsuit, we had to pass a bond to fund it.
Okay.
And one of the things when I made the motion to accept the settlement, it was contingent upon the Board of Trustees voting for a bond, and a bond takes 4 votes. So one of the Republicans, Bill Panessa, had to vote for the bond because, listen,
even though he voted
yes,
against the settlement.
In essence, if they wanted not to settle the lawsuit, they could have not settled the lawsuit. And by just voting no on the bond.
So did the vote on the settlement go along party lines?
Yes, it did.
Okay. You also have the lawsuit by the day laborers, and I know that has been in settlement talks.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still in talks?
We're still in talks. I think we've made progress. I think the sides were pretty far apart, and I think just through the mayor and myself met with the representatives of the day laborers and their lawyers, and I think just through a little bit of dialogue, we've moved closer together. Both sides see that that there are concerns on the other side that need to be met, and hopefully that'll be resolved in the future. But you can't guarantee anything in this world.
Okay, but is there a court-imposed deadline hanging over you, a settlement date?
Yes, it keeps getting pushed back
Right,
because
but
we're making progress.
What's the current
I think
date?
the current date, I think it's March 28th, but That
Okay.
might not be exact, but it's around there.
Towards the end of the month.
Yes.
Okay, lawsuit number 3.
Yeah.
Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club.
Uh-huh.
What's going to happen? I know they had a big court victory, the beach club. What's going to happen now? Do you know?
Well, I wish I could tell you what's going to happen in all these lawsuits. You know, it would be a lot easier to settle them. But what's happening right now is the zoning board. The judge said that the zoning board's decision that said that the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club application was non-compliant and non-conforming with the zoning code was overturned by the judge. We are appealing that judge's decision of an Article 78, which is, in terms of lawsuits, Article 78 is the smallest kind. And you know, after that gets decided one way or the other, we'll see what the next step is.
Okay.
But
Let's go to zoning. There's a lot going on in zoning issues, but there's been some heavy discussion. I know Mike is doing a story on that tonight on the Highview project.
Right.
Highview Street.
Highview Street.
What's going on there? Can you tell us?
Well, what happened in the Highview Street is, you know, Highview Street runs, east to west, and the developer.
Is that the dead end?
Yeah, if you're going up Old White Plains Road, you make a left.
And it's a dead end.
And
right.
it's a dead end, right? Right after 95.
Right.
The developer, Maura, who is the past zoning board chairman, wants to put a street perpendicular to it as a new street. And there was a right-of-way consideration. The right-of-way was reduced from 50 to 40 that you could make a new subdivision. And this happened right before Mr. Gabriel, proposed his subdivision. And you know, it caused a lot of contention because he would have only been able to have put 5 houses in, but now he could put 8 houses in. Mm-hmm. But as that being said and done, as a board of trustees, we have to look at, when I voted for...
So you reevaluate,
Yes,
you have to reevaluate.
When I voted for that law, I didn't realize that it would create more density. The object of it was to reduce impervious surfaces. But it ended up, it increased impervious surfaces by allowing more houses, more driveways.
Impervious surfaces?
Impervious surfaces are surfaces that, you know, don't absorb water. So
Okay.
the rain runs off and goes into your sewer system and pollutes your harbor.
Now, was there another resolution on zoning recently passed by the board?
Yes, we passed a couple of moratoriums. A moratorium on fast food, so you can't open a new fast food restaurant until we figure out where they're appropriate and where they're not appropriate. One of the concerns I have is having drive-through fast food restaurants on Boston Post Road, and do we want that in the future?
And what's the other moratorium?
The other moratorium is on developments, housing developments of over 6 units, because we're trying to control development until we figure out where it's appropriate and what density it's
Because you have about 300 new units.
303 new units in the next year, which is it's ponderous. You know,
Well, I want to thank you for coming in, and you heard it here first. He's not running for mayor this fall.
yes, and you can thank my wife and my children.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. It's good seeing you again, Maura.
It's been 3 weeks since Governor Elliott Spitzer spoke critically of Assemblyman George Latimer. Spitzer, you may recall, was in Mamaroneck at the time, talking up his proposed budget when he took a swipe at the popular Democratic legislator. He criticized Latimer's vote for Thomas DiNapoli as the new state comptroller. And then he said he was disappointed that Latimer was not supporting reform in Albany. Stung by the unexpected comment, Latimer nonetheless stuck to his guns. He defended his vote in a lengthy letter to critics. Selecting Tom DiNapoli, he wrote, was no mistake. It was no knee-jerk loyalty vote. He concluded, I think he, DiNapoli, brings the better skill set to this challenge, a proper bipartisan attitude and a low-key reasonability, plus all the experience I've mentioned. The letter detailed quite a bit of DiNapoli's experience. Latimer also defended his distinguished 20-year career as a public servant. He wrote, I have a long record of advancing real reforms. That commitment continues every single day. He says, I care very deeply that I do my best in office and take positions that are for the public good. About that, dozens of officials and residents agreed. Several wrote letters to the editors of the local newspapers. The storm seems to have quieted now. Former Assemblyman DiNapoli is settling in as comptroller, elected by the legislature as stipulated in the state constitution, according to Latimer. And as Latimer reflects in his letter, I simply disagreed with the governor on one issue. At this stage of the game, he writes, all I can do is my job. The governor is very powerful, but ultimately the power rests with the people in these communities. Right now, Mamaroneck and Larchmont officials are worried that the governor's budget cuts state aid to Larchmont and the town of Mamaroneck. The village stands to lose $75,000, but the town may lose twice that amount. The governor's spending plan eliminates AIM funds, that's the aid and incentives to municipalities, for towns and villages with property values above 250% of the state average. They'd lose the money. Latimer is working with Mayor Liz Feld and Supervisor O'Keefe to restore the cuts. It's not fair to do this in the middle of a budget year, he argues. For the town of Mamaroneck, says O'Keefe, the loss of AIM funding in 2007 will turn a 2% decrease in the townwide tax into a 13.7% tax increase. Mayor Feld says that Larchmont residents sent more than $40 million in taxes to Albany, and she relies on the $75,000 in AIM funds to offset tax increases to local residents who already support a $13 million village budget. Officials say any cuts in funding should be coupled with cuts in the unfunded mandates imposed by the state, like the Witsch law, for instance, that requires use of multiple contractors for school and municipal construction projects, and pension contribution requirements. But Latimer doesn't think the recent flap with Spitzer will diminish his effectiveness as he argues to restore those cuts. He told a reporter, quote, "I don't hold a personal grudge over the governor's comments. I'm comfortable voting for a proposal of his that has merit. And in the same way, I would hope that he would receive that request in the same spirit," unquote. He concludes, "I believe in the next weeks we can move forward cooperatively." We hope so too, and we'll keep you posted on new developments.
The former Hommock's music teacher, who pleaded guilty to statutory rape and 1 count of child endangerment, was sentenced last month to 6 months in prison, 10 years probation, loss of his teaching license, and ordered not to contact any of the victims through 2017. Omar Rodriguez had been charged with the 3rd-degree rape of a 16-year-old Connecticut teen and 9 counts of child endangerment relating to the alleged fondling of several female Hommock students. Rodriguez won't begin his term in Valhalla County Jail until January 2, 2008, though, to allow him time to continue or finish training for a new career that does not involve children. Several residents I spoke to expressed shock that the jail time was so short, though Rodriguez has already spent a few months in prison, which may ultimately count as time served. On the other hand, they thought it was time to put the situation behind us. As one parent who did not want to be identified told me, and I quote, "Rodriguez was sentenced and it's time to move forward. These federal and personal liability lawsuits, particularly against Hommock's principal Weitzman, are completely frivolous and a huge drain of our taxpayer dollars. Let's put this money towards new, innovative educational programs," end quote. The lawsuits referred to are the civil claims against the school district, school superintendent Dr. Paul Freed, Hommock's principal Dr. Seth Weitzman, and assistant superintendent of personnel Rosemarie Coletti. The lawsuit alleges that these individuals were responsible for the hiring, training, and supervision of Rodriguez, which led to the alleged sexual assault and battery of the girls, and the violation of their 14th Amendment right to be let alone, that is, to attend school without being physically abused and to be afforded bodily security. The lawsuit seeks unspecified monetary damages and changes in school policies. After several published letters by a plaintiff's attorney in a local paper accusing Dr. Weitzman of not protecting the girls, Dr. Weitzman himself had published in the Sound in Town report a letter to the editor responding to what he called the insinuations and expressing his disgust about the allegations. In Weitzman's letter, he refers to the fact that he's been involved in this community for 14 years as not only an educator but also as a parent, neighbor, and coach. In fact, his daughter was a Hommock student at the time of the alleged inappropriate conduct by Rodriguez. He goes on to state that, and I quote, "The implication that I somehow tolerated or harbored a pedophile at Hommock's is inconceivable and repugnant. These malicious claims are made all the more difficult because I am advised to maintain silence," end quote. He goes on to say that the courts, not the media, are the place to resolve this and that he acted properly. And of course, we'll keep you posted on this story.
A public hearing was held last week in Mamaroneck Village about the impact of new residential development. The result is a moratorium on new building in the village. There has been a recent spike in village development, and density is a worrisome issue, both for village residents as well as those whose property borders the new developments. In October of 2005, the zoning code was amended. It reduces the right-of-way requirement from 50 feet to 40 feet. That allows for narrower roads and more land on which to build. Some village residents want to reverse that amendment. Doreen Roney is one. She's suing the village zoning board to stop the construction of several new homes on Highview Street. She says the change in the zoning code allows for streets to be created where they would never have been allowed to exist before. The developer of the Highview Street homes is Maura Gabrielli, a real estate appraiser who also teaches a course in real estate at NYU. He argues that his project of 8 homes is actually expanding the tax base and providing people in the community with new housing. Trustee Tom Murphy told the Journal News that back in 2005, the board, himself included, didn't consider all of the density ramifications of changing the law. We're now taking the time, he says, to study that law and examine the issue more thoroughly. That same Highview Street development, by the way, attracted attention last October, too. The Mamaroneck Village Fire Chief Vincent Koch strenuously opposed the dead-end street approved for the subdivision. He cited potential problems getting firefighting equipment and emergency vehicles into a street which is designed like a T.
FBLA cleans up without a broom. Glenna Gray sweeps in the story.
It's competition time for the FBLA. The FBLA stands for the Future Business Leaders of America. This organization helps to prepare student leaders for careers in business. Students in the Mamaroneck High School have participated within this organization for many years. The spring district meeting this year was very exciting for Mamaroneck students. A Mamaroneck student won either first or second place in the oral competitions. This meeting was the preliminary round of elimination, and it determines which winners can proceed to the state competition. The oral events included basic decision-making, job interview, impromptu speaking, and public speaking. The winners were Giancola Rice, Caroline Kuferman, Catherine Kahn, Elias Everett, and Isabella Morse Days. Congratulations to all the students from all of us here at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Well done.
Witches or fairies? Have your pick. They're both coming, as Amy Schachtel explains with a group of semi-royal actors.
I've taken a walk back in time, and I am joined here with a Shakespearean troupe of actors. And I understand that there's going to be a production coming up at the Hommocks. Can you tell me about it? And as your character, please.
Absolutely. This year, for the Semi-Royal Shakespeare Company's productions, we are putting on Macbeth and A Midsummer Night's Dream.
When will this be happening?
This will be happening March 8th through March 11th at the Hommocks Auditorium.
And are tickets being sold there?
Yes, they are being sold right before the show, but also in the overpass at the Mamaroneck High School during lunchtime all of next week.
That's fantastic. Now,
Yes.
This fantastic outfit you're wearing, your character is?
I am Hermia.
And our characters behind you?
This is Macbeth. This is Bottom and Lady Macbeth.
My goodness, wow. And so we're looking at 2 performances here, 2 different shows, of course, which, as you said, will be happening?
They will be happening March 8th through 11th at the Hommocks Auditorium.
Now, all of you have been in a troupe headed by Dee O'Brien, correct? And you are seniors here at the high school, but you're using the stage at the middle school.
Yes, it's a great honor.
And this troupe has been in existence for over 30 years, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's actually our 33rd year.
Wow, you look great for your age. Oh, you're very welcome. So tell me, what brought you to want to do this?
Well, personally, I have a knack for acting. I love it. It's being on stage, it's such a great feeling. And when I saw that there was an opportunity to try out for this, I jumped at it. And it has been the most amazing thing ever. It has helped me acclimate to the high school and meet some of the most amazing people I will ever meet in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Now, also, you know the works of Shakespeare were written originally for the everyman in the communities that they were originally performed. So I know some of you do aspire to be actors, but you just mentioned how many people and different types you've met through doing this.
Yeah, it's amazing. All different grades, all different people from different groups in school just come together, and we just have such a great time. And it's like, you can't even explain like the great feeling that it is to just know so many good people, and we all come together because we love Shakespeare and Dee and each other.
Well, then I guess we all have to come and see these shows.
Absolutely.
And let's tell everybody again.
Okay, it is March 8th through March 11th at the Homix Auditorium, and we are performing Macbeth and A Midsummer Night's Dream, and if you can come to see both, you really should. They are going to be amazing.
There's something missing at the corner of Weaver Street and Boston Post Road. Don Lewis gets to the bottom of it.
Fall into the gap. Perhaps one of the most effective musical corporate catchphrases ever written. Well, the residents of Mamaroneck have their own catchphrase regarding the Gap's Post Road location. What gap did our local store fall into? It seems that the Post Road store abruptly closed on January 24th of this year with no explanation as to why. I contacted the Gap's corporate headquarters and spoke to Miss Sarah Anderson. She told me that the Gap that caters to everyone from tots to senior citizens, both male and female, was simply closed for interior renovations and will reopen on Wednesday, May 16th. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Don Lewis.
Looking for something to do this summer? The Empire Games are recruiting volunteers. Amy Schachtel tells how you can get involved.
This coming summer, Westchester is hosting a major sporting event called the Empire State Games, which will happen July 21st through July 29th. The Empire State Games is celebrating its 30th year as New York's version of the Olympics for amateur athletes. The attendance is estimated at approximately 15,000 spectators and 6,000 amateur athletes. The Empire Games is looking for volunteers and athletes at high schools, colleges, sporting associations, recreation departments, and local governments. The number to reach them to sign up is 914-864-7149. So now is the right time to call to sign up and or volunteer. The organizing committee is looking to recruit approximately 1,000 volunteers to help staff 21 venues in our county. They're looking for people with knowledge or skills of media and databasing of results, ham radio operators for communication and to work with medical personnel, EMTs, physicians and physicians' assistants, and scorekeepers. So get involved and have fun. Enjoy the thrill of victory and the fun of volunteering. The number again to call is 914-864-7149. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Amy Schachtel.
Glenna Gray has a sweet story about elementary schoolers sharing love locally.
On February 13th, 2007, the local hunger task force was able to include, quote, love in a box, unquote, to the residents who received needed food from the CAP Center. Students at the Murray Avenue School created these surprise gifts for their fellow Mamaroneck residents. Love in a Box is a project which grew out of the Katrina storm. The project was a part of Random Acts of Kindness Week, which occurs February 12th through the 16th. The boxes varied in size and shape and were then wrapped in paper. Drawings were placed on the wrappings. Shells, feathers were also used. The students also learned that there are people here in the community who need a helping hand. We hoped everyone enjoyed all the gifts they received. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Glenna Gray.
This one was news to me, Mike. Did you know that there's a Westchester County Film Festival? Amy Schachtel gives us everything but the popcorn.
If you love films, you won't have to fly to France or go out west to Sundance. Right here in Westchester County, the 8th Annual Westchester Film Festival will be screening over 24 independent features, shorts, and documentaries. This exciting event begins for a weekend you won't want to miss. So mark these dates on your calendar. March 9th through March 11th, beginning at 1 p.m. on Friday the 9th. Films will be shown continuously through Sunday the 11th at the City Center in White Plains. Also, plan to stay after to see actor Armand Asante receive a Lifetime Achievement Award. More than a dozen of the films this year are productions written and directed by our local residents, as well as a grand sampling of filmmakers from all around the world. Now, the number you need to call is 914-995-2917 to purchase your tickets. Again, that number is 914-995-2917. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Amy Schachtel. See you at the movies.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you'd like to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
Just a reminder, our program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could sure use a few more volunteers, maybe behind the scenes or as a reporter. Or perhaps you'd like to shoot some video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we've got something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC TV studios and see how we do what we do.
Our studios are in Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs across from the landmark Walter's hot dog stand. Things get started around 7 p.m. and we'd love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video, an event that you'd like us to put on this news show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC TV, Mamaroneck Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. We'll see you next week. Body washes up on local beach.
Cleanup from the first big storm of the season.
The Village of Larchmont election ballot.
Important news for dog owners.
A school tax hike in the works.
And more school board discussions on fields. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. A gruesome discovery on Harbor Island Beach. A mother and child found a suitcase stuffed with a female torso that washed up on shore. Officials do not believe the victim to be a local resident since there are no open missing persons reports. And given the storm the day before, it's likely that the case was swept in with the floodwaters. Police have searched the local waters for additional body parts and clues, but found none. But they are asking for your help in identifying the victim. There's a tattoo about 2 inches high over the right breast of 2 cherries. We're showing you a picture. Now, it could be that the cherries are covering another tattoo. See those extra red dots? And officials say the tattoo, or part of it, could be recent. Police estimate that the victim was likely Hispanic, 5'4" to 5'6", about 180 to 200 pounds, and between 35 and 50 years of age. The body was not severely decomposed, suggesting a fairly recent death. Also in the suitcase was clothing. Again, you should be seeing pictures. A bloody long-sleeved tan shirt and gray slacks were on top of the torso. Police are asking for your help. If you have any information, please contact the Village of Mamaroneck Police Department at 777-7780 or Detective David Castorella at 777-7743 or Detective Sergeant Robert Holland at 777-7739. Calls will be kept confidential and will certainly keep you posted.
Election day in Larchmont is March 20th. However, the election is not going to be very exciting or generate controversial discussions among candidates. Only 3 candidates are going to be on the ballot, all Democrats running on the coalition party ticket, as nobody else submitted a petition by the deadline. The coalition party or platform is the group of Republicans and Democrats that was successful in the last village election. At the time, Liz Feld, Republican running on that platform for mayor, was successful in beating then incumbent and fellow Republican Ken Bialo. Earlier this year, the caucus of the Larchmont Democrats elected 3 candidates for the positions that are up for election on March 20th. Incumbent Ann McAndrews and first-time candidate Richard Ward were nominated for 2 trustee seats on the village board, and Jerry Bernstein, who has been village justice for 3 terms, is seeking re-election. The Republican caucus was attended by just very few people and did not produce a list of candidates. The Republicans in the village of Larchmont are in a phase of restructuring. Longtime chair of the party, Marion White, had resigned a week before the caucus. Her replacement at the time was not able to attend due to a prior commitment, and Mayor Liz Feld had to step in as the substitute chair of the party. As the party is regrouping, it is also preparing to look for candidates for elections in the future. The newest nominee of the Democrats, Richard Ward, who is 54 years old, ran for village trustee in 1996. At the time, he was the only Republican who was opposed by 3 Democratic candidates, and he did not succeed in obtaining a seat on the board at the time. He's now in the process of registering as a Democrat, and Richard Ward is a senior vice president for corporate and investment banking at HSBC Bank. For many years, he coached youth sports, and he also served in the Coastal Zone Management Commission, Save Our Sound, the Larchmont Business Task Force, and also the Park and Trees Committee. Among his goals for the village government are the improvement of Flint Park, improvements for the needs of teenagers in the village, and also work on zoning issues to preserve the structure and character of the village. Ann McAndrews is an incumbent. She has been on the board as a trustee since 2001. She's an attorney with a private practice that specializes in tax and real estate. Again, the election is on March 20th in the village of Larchmont.
The storm on Friday, March 2nd, left many locals searching for arcs or at least safety as 4 inches of rain flooded the area, worsened by the frozen ground which left the soil unable to absorb the water. Local officials provided cleanup kits, including mops, brooms, garbage bags, and disinfectant supplied by the Red Cross. The Westchester chapter of the Red Cross also opened its shelter at St. Thomas Church to house residents who were temporarily homeless and those who needed a place to rest. Many residents also lost power, and some were still waiting for it 3 days later. Also affected was the Pinebrook section of the village of Larchmont, where residents complained at a recent village board meeting of sewage coming up and flowing into homes and streets. Clearly, this first storm of the season won't be soon forgotten.
As we reported some weeks ago, and then again after a public hearing last week, the superintendent of the Mamaroneck school system has plans to make administrative restructuring changes that he believes will improve the quality of the school system. Last week, we reported on a public hearing on that proposal. Superintendent Paul Freed has now submitted his budget proposal for 2007-2008. The total budget is $112 million, raising spending by 7.9% and resulting in a 6.63% rise in the tax rate for residents. The administrative restructuring program that Superintendent Freed is promoting means hiring 5 full-time so-called content directors that would oversee the teaching of math, English, science guidance, and social studies. Each of the new directors would have a starting salary of $110,000 per year. In addition, the superintendent plans to add an assistant superintendent for student support services. His or her salary is budgeted at $170,000. Furthermore, a director of cultural arts would be added to the staff at an annual salary of $120,000. In total, the restructuring plan that Superintendent Freed has proposed would add $250,000 in additional expenses. The restructuring program is still being discussed, and now the proposed budget will add to that discussion. The school's proposed budget will be adopted by the Mamaroneck Board of Education on April 17th, and it will then be subject to the vote by the community, which is scheduled for May 15th. Copies of the budget as adopted by the board will be available to the public at the end of April, and in addition, the highlights of the budget will be posted on the Board of Education website, which has the address www.mamkschools.org.
Plan A, Plan B, Plan C? Nope. Not proposals to end the Iraq War, but ideas to expand Mamaroneck school playing fields without encroaching on the Kemper Memorial. At the February 27th school board meeting, William Aniskovich from the design firm WBA Group presented alternative configurations for turf fields at Mamaroneck High School and possibly Central School. The drawings showed what would theoretically fit, but more engineering and drainage studies are needed to show what's feasible and cost-effective. Fields for Kids is also doing a comprehensive field survey with possible alternatives for adding and improving fields throughout the community, not just at the schools. We'll keep you posted as more information becomes available.
Metro-North Railroad continues to improve its ridership numbers and set new records. The railroad gained a total of 3.2% during last year. The Hudson Line was up by 4.1% to a total of 14.7 million individual trips. New Haven Line saw an increase of 3.1% and a total of 34.9 million. And on the Harlem Line, the increase was 2.6% and a total of 25.4 million commuter rides. As more commuters are using the trains, the railroad has also made changes to its schedule. There are more early morning trains, more express trains, and also additional late night trains. Metro-North has also had some improvements as far as the on-time performance in 2006 was concerned. In the Metro-North area east of the Hudson River, trains had an on-time performance across the system of 97.8%, which also set a record for the railroad.
It appears there's no such thing as a free walk anymore, as New Rochelle prepares to impose fees on non-residents using its Ward Acres Park. Mike Witch has details and discussion with a New Rochelle resident opposed to this unneighborly plan.
As reported in the Larchmont Gazette, New Rochelle is doing something very unneighborly to many residents of Larchmont and Mamaroneck. Starting April 1st, a fee of $250 a year will be required of any non-resident of New Rochelle who wants to walk a dog in Ward Acres, on or off the leash. The steep fee is part of an amended ordinance approved earlier this year by the New Rochelle City Council. Dog owners are understandably up in arms about the new rules and are organizing to propose some changes. An information-packed website has been created. It's welovewardacres.net. Jeff Wygand, a New Rochelle resident, points out that Ward Acres was purchased in part with state conservation funds back in 1962. The 62-acre park, he says, is a section of the county-wide Colonial Greenway, and state regulations prohibit localities from unfairly restricting use of the parkland. Jeff's wife, Kathy Wygand, is also involved in the effort to make these changes, and she joins me to discuss the issues in more detail. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
Did this all start with the Volmer report, this big $75,000 study that the council had done?
Yeah, I think that that's fair to say. It's been about 10 or 12 years that Ward Acres has been an unofficial dog park. People have been coming from all over and enjoying their dogs together, meeting each other. And the Vollmer report suggested putting a restaurant on the property, which wasn't exactly what we had in mind.
But that's been
No,
ruled out.
that is no longer happening. The property is supposed to be used as an open, natural space. So it's clear, not a restaurant.
Okay, and as we're talking, we're looking at pictures of a documentary called Born to Run.
Yes.
And this is a documentary that's going to be running on LMC-TV on this very channel and in New Rochelle as well on the public access channels.
Yes.
So what are the issues?
The two main issues from the dog owner's point of view are the steep fees, $50 per dog per New Rochelle resident, and $250 per dog for any resident outside of New Rochelle. And that's going to be very difficult for some people to afford, and it's way out of line with other fees. For example, in New Rochelle, you can get an Omni card. That's a pass that you put in your car to park at 5 or 6 different parks, and you can take your whole family. That's $31 a year. So it's the $50 seems a bit steep, although, you know, for some people that's not the issue. The other issue is we really have enjoyed having off-leash opportunities to walk through the park with our dogs.
Must be one of the few places, if not the only places you can do that.
It's wonderful. And to the city leaders' credit, they are trying to give us some off-leash time. And most places where dogs can be walked off-leash, it's unofficial. It's tolerated. So they are doing something new. They are
But the
allowing
ordinance
it.
really restricts those hours, doesn't it?
It's going to restrict
Early
it. On
morning
the
and then late
weekend, it will be
afternoon.
only until 10 o'clock. And that's really difficult for families. I'll tell you, if you have teenagers, they're either at their jobs or their volunteer activities or their sports, or they're sleeping and in the mornings. And so we really would like to see some time in the afternoons or a later time in the morning on the weekends. The proposed rules are also a little confusing right now. In the wintertime, we'll have after 4 p.m., which is a little sliver of time in the winter.
For those people who want to look at the ordinance, it's actually linked on the website, isn't it?
Yes, yes it is.
Do you think this is an effort to discourage people from using the land?
Yes, we really, the people in the dog community feel that it's not so much to regulate or to gain money, it's really to keep people
Or to
out.
pay for upkeep.
They're claiming it's paying for upkeep, but a lot of people simply can't afford the fees, so they won't be paying.
There are people who, I saw a little bit of the documentary preparing for this interview, and people say that they don't see anybody else there besides the dog owners. Are there folks who are just so uncomfortable about dogs that they're not going, and are they the people who are perhaps
I think
behind
that
the
there are
changes?
people. I know that there are people who say, I'm not going to go to Ward Acres because there are off-leash dogs and I don't want a dog to jump on me or sniff me, which is very understandable. At this point, I think all the dog people want to give some time during the day to people who are not dog lovers. That's only fair. But our point is, there are 30 parks in New Rochelle. People can use all of them. Dogs are only using this one. So please don't kick us out to have another park that's just like all the other ones in terms of
And
use.
it's also not an issue that the dogs are dirtying up the park.
No. People are very responsible about their dogs. And as a matter of fact, it's been dog walkers who post little bags of baggies at all the entrances, and they put garbage cans out with the bags in it, and they take the bags and put them out for collection during the week. That's not done by the city. That's not done by the city. It's done by the dog walkers.
And on the website, there's even a notice about a cleanup day coming up.
Well, I think there's a tremendous amount of goodwill from all the people who use the park and love it. the problem is with very restricted hours of when dog owners can use the park, it's not our park anymore, and we will lose the goodwill and we'll lose the volunteer spirit that people are more than willing to contribute to the effort.
Well, you are certainly passionate about it, and would you tell us the website one more time?
Yes, www.welovewardacres.net.
Okay, and one final word, this documentary called Born to Run is on LMC-TV coming up March 13th and 15th. On the 13th, it's at 6:30 in the evening, and the 15th, it's at 8:30. In New Rochelle, we don't know when it's airing, but people should call the public access.
We think it's going to be on Wednesday the 21st and Wednesday the 28th at 6:30. That's what we think now.
Kathy, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us today.
Thank you.
Just in time for allergy season, Amy Schachtel has news of an important discussion night.
I'm here with Karen Caffino. Karen, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us tonight. And you have a very important message that you need to let our viewers know. Coming next month in March, what will be happening that you want to tell our viewers about?
Well, we have a very exciting month of March coming up. One of the things that we're going to do is educate our students in the Mamaroneck school system about asthma and allergies and make them and the students around them more aware of these two diseases.
I understand that you've been given a very generous grant. Is
Yes,
that so?
yes, we have, from the Larchmont Mamaroneck Schools Foundation.
And what have you done with this grant?
It's actually a threefold process. One of the prongs of it is that we, as the school nurses in the elementary schools, have received a wonderful piece of equipment that is an electronic piece of equipment that allows us to monitor vital signs, blood pressure, pulse, temperature, and pulse oximetry. So that was very exciting.
What is the name of this type of equipment?
It's called, actually, it's by Welsh Allen, and it's called a vital signs monitor.
I see.
And it's a very big help in our offices.
And there are 4 schools that all received?
Yes, we've received 4 of these units, and they're quite costly.
But seem very valuable for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Now, asthma and allergy awareness. There's going to be a lecture, and this lecture will be at the Homick School.
Yes.
And I'm reading here that it's Wednesday, March 21st. Now, at this lecture, you'll have a Dr. Gerasi.
Yes, Dr. Kira Gerasi.
And her specialty?
She's a local physician who specializes in allergies, and she's going to be speaking for about an hour on allergies and making everybody aware of allergies in the community.
Okay. And we're now, obviously, we're coming out of winter, coming into spring, what people consider pollen and dust and airborne allergies. But are there others that we should be more aware of, such as in the school, what you find?
Yes, we have a lot of allergies, a lot of foodborne allergies, which are very worrisome in the schools, one of them being peanut butter, which has been in the news a lot lately.
Yes.
And other food allergies as well. In the summer, we worry about bee sting allergies.
My question to you now is asthma an allergy?
No, asthma is really not an allergy. Asthma is a condition, and it affects the lungs, and it affects breathing.
Okay. All right. So now there's another gentleman who will be speaking, Thomas Jeffrey Byrne. Tell me about him.
Jeffrey Byrne is a gentleman who is the program director for asthma at St. John's Riverside Hospital. He has also been working with the school nurses in the Mamaroneck district with regard to asthma, and he has, through a grant of his own, provided our school with a lot of materials to treat the children with asthma. So we have a very close relationship with Jeff Byrne, and he's going to be coming to speak to the community about the other end of the spectrum, which is asthma. So he'll be speaking for an hour on asthma.
Now, Karen, as we were speaking before, you told me something very interesting, which is of the 4 schools, there'll be 1 week dedicated in the month, each week of the month of March in each schools, speaking to the kids, telling them about asthma and allergies, so they feel more comfortable in getting the help they may need and finding out from you just what it is that they need to do. Can you
Absolutely.
expand on this a little bit, please?
Yes, we've, through the grant as well, we've been able to purchase a plethora of books and materials and videos for the children in the school. So we've asked each of our elementary schools to pick a week in the month of March, and we are going to provide their teachers, we're going to focus in on the 3rd grade, and we're going to provide those teachers with this material that they can show to the children and read to the children for a week in the month of March, to educate the children who don't know about asthma and allergies, to make them feel more comfortable, and to make the children who have asthma and allergies even feel more comfortable about their diseases.
So we can all take a deep breath
Yes.
and be comfortable. Thank you very
hope so.
much
Thank you.
for sharing this. And again, that is Wednesday, March 21st at the Homix Auditorium in the Homix Middle School at 6:30.
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
I hope to see you there. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mike Witch shares news from the town of Mamaroneck.
The town of Mamaroneck is getting a new fire pump truck. Voters in the unincorporated area approved the referendum on February 27th. As reported in the Larchmont Gazette, the vote was 55-1. The new truck will cost almost $430,000, about the same as one recently purchased by the Larchmont Fire Department. It will be built by Koch Mobile Equipment of Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania. Town Fire Chief Matt Peloso says the new truck will replace one that's now 28 years old. It's the type that arrives first at the scene of a fire. Peloso was joined by 20 firefighters at the town council meeting following the vote. They thanked the council members for their support in the 4-year process that resulted in the referendum and the purchase of the truck. Delivery is expected in about 1 year. In further news, the town of Mamaroneck Fire Department announced it will celebrate its 100-year anniversary with a community block party at the firehouse on September 15th. Other business at the town council meeting reported by the Gazette. Council members renewed the agreement for the town participation in the Southeast Consortium, which provides recreation programs for residents with developmental disabilities. There are 8 other communities in the consortium. The town's contribution this year will be $22,875. The 3-year agreement fulfills federal and state mandates. The board also appointed Don Meeker to the town's Board of Architectural Review. Meeker's been involved in the town activities for some time and has extensive experience in signage. He's responsible, for instance, for the design of the town welcome signs, the mural in the town courtroom, and the signs for the Premium Manor Marsh and the Premium Conservation Area. Meeker recently assisted the board with the drafting of proposed new legislation regulating signage, especially illuminated signs. In fact, there was a public hearing on those proposed regulations just last week. A different public hearing is scheduled for March 21st. The council will discuss possible property tax exemptions for senior citizens and disabled persons, according to income requirements set forth by the New York State Legislature. Last year, the town renewed 286 senior citizen exemptions and offered exemptions to 23 new applicants. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Mike Witch.
Celebrate St. Patrick's Day for a good cause. Amy Schachtel has the party plans.
The Larchmont Avenue Church will be hosting a St. Patrick's Day dinner on March 17th to benefit and raise money for Gulf Coast Relief. Roger King, the head of the Church and Society Committee, has created a family-friendly St. Patrick's Day celebration. This event will have a New Orleans style of Cajun specialties and will also include the traditional corned beef and cabbage. This very special event will also include music, games, prizes, and much more. Your donations raised that evening will be used to help the volunteers of the Gulf Coast rebuild. They are hoping to buy a construction trailer and construction tools, all so needed in this damaged and devastated area. The Presbyterian Church USA has established several service camps in the area, part of a 7-year plan to help rebuild the Gulf Coast. And as I said earlier, mark your calendars for March 17th, St. Patrick's Day dinner at the Larchmont Avenue Church. Please call 834-1800 to make your reservations. And of course, you can get your tickets at the door that night. Prices will be $10 for adults and $5 for kids. So bring the whole family and have fun for a very important cause. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Amy Schachtel.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter. Or maybe you'd like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we've got something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in the Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs across from the landmark Walter's hot dog stand. And we get things started around 7 p.m. and we would love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this news show, bring it to us at the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, Mamaroneck Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Maura Carlin. We'll see you next week. Update on the dead body found on Mamaroneck Beach.
School superintendent discusses restructuring plan.
New grants awarded by the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation.
Good news for Chocolations.
And an LMC-TV event and LMC contest that you won't want to miss. Those stories and more are coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Maura Carlin.
And I'm Sven Oehme. Our top story. Mamaroneck police still are looking for help in identifying the dismembered body found on March 3rd in a suitcase on a Mamaroneck village beach. Since the day the body was found, the identity of the body has been a mystery. Initially, detectives thought that a tattoo on the body might direct them to identifying the victim. But the double cherry tattoo that they found on the body and that they displayed on flyers and tattoo parlors in New York City and Westchester County did not lead to uncovering the woman's identity. In the suitcase, police officers found a tan long-sleeve top and gray-colored slacks, which have care labels in Spanish. Police are reaching out to the Hispanic media for help. At a press conference held on March 15th at the Emlyn Theater, organized with the help of Hispanic County Legislator Jose Alvarado of Yonkers, police hope to get the Hispanic media involved. According to reports on News 12, Alvarado could barely contain his disappointment that no member of the Hispanic media attended. Anyone who might have any information regarding the victim can call the Village of Mamaroneck Police Department at 914-777-7780 or the Detective Bureau at 914-777-7743 and ask for Detective David Castorella or Detective Sergeant Robert Holland.
Mamaroneck School Superintendent Dr. Paul Freed recently proposed an administrative restructuring that drew fire from teachers, not parents. The more controversial aspects of the plan involve the creation of an extra layer of administration. Directors for grades 6 through 12, that's for Hommock's Middle School and Mamaroneck High School combined, for the individual curriculum areas such as math, science, English, social studies, and foreign language, plus guidance. He spoke to me about the plan and some modifications he's made after talking to concerned community members.
The changes that were made from the original proposal for administrative restructuring were that in the particular area of director of guidance, we have in fact decided not to go forward with that particular position and instead use the model that's presently in place, which is a chairperson for guidance here at Mamaroneck High School. In addition, in order to support the middle school in a way that we believe makes sense and help support the guidance effort there, we are creating a new stipended position with a small stipend, a coordinator of guidance for grades 6 through 8. And we believe that now we'll have that support at both schools.
And both the Hommocks and the high school chairs of guidance or
Yes.
coordinators will report to the Director of Special Services?
Well, that of course was a position that we had recommended a new title for. So the Director of Special Education will no longer exist, but it will be the Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services, and that individual would have, in fact, oversight for the guidance department, grades 6 through 12.
As well as the special education and some of the medical programs?
Correct, as present. So special education programs, the 504s, which are the medical part of students' profiles at times, as well as nursing services and the school physician. That will all be under that.
And in the special education department, you've also made a change about the directors of special ed?
Yes. Right now in special education, we have 2 assistant directors, one assistant director for elementary education and one assistant director for secondary education. And in listening carefully to parents and to teachers and to other people, we did recommend a change to move those positions to director positions. Since we no longer have a director of special education, it gives them, I think, an opportunity to have a greater presence in the role in the lives of the students by having those titles revised.
Okay, and the current Director of Special Ed is retiring, unrelated?
Peter Behrens, yes,
Right.
he is retiring.
Yes. Okay, so what are the other changes for the other subjects?
Okay, the other changes are that in the area of art, here at Mamaroneck High School, we did in fact have, we were going to take away a release period and leave the stipend that is now being restored. So in the area of art, that is now going to remain unchanged. They will have both the release period as well as the stipend, and so that creates the whole, so to speak, for the art department. And we still will be looking at the Director of Cultural Arts to provide ongoing support for the music, art, and theater arts departments. So that is one of the revisions we've made, is restoring that. And in the area of foreign language, when we brought in the concept of directors for the 4 main content areas, English, math, science, and social studies, we did not recommend one for foreign language. But at that time, we were considering, again, taking away the release period. We are restoring that. We do believe that's an important consideration to have been made.
What changed your mind and made you make these changes?
Well, from the beginning of the proposal that I had made before the Board of Education and Community, I did in fact say that now that I had put this proposal on the table, that I certainly was willing to listen and to consider opinions of others and hear from our teaching colleagues, from parents, from the Board of Education, from all of the stakeholders. And after hearing from them and weighing different options and choices, I did think that there were reasons based on information I'd received that would make sense to make these changes. I think, in fact, being collaborative in this kind of way is an important part of working together.
What is the financial impact of the modifications? Has that been quantified?
It actually has.
I'm not surprised.
The difference, actually, between the changes that I've made is somewhere in the $10,000 range. So it's not very large in the scheme of the entire budget.
So I take it these decisions weren't made on a dollars and cents basis?
They were not.
They were made on a common sense basis?
They were made on a common sense basis, on a willingness, in fact, to listen well and listen carefully, and again, make compromises when I felt that they were educationally valid to do so.
Well, we appreciate your coming in to explain the modifications you're making to the proposal. Let me tell everyone out there to stay with us, because later on the show we'll be back with Dr. Freed to talk about some of the tougher questions, like the great divide between parents and teachers on some of these issues, why the plan was developed and presented without teacher involvement, and also the whole financial impact on the budget.
Mamaroneck Village resident Suzanne McCrory paid about $15,000 in legal fees to finally obtain a copy of a village official's financial disclosure statement. She has now filed a lawsuit that is pending before the state Supreme Court in White Plains. She's suing to be reimbursed for the amount she had to spend, as under New York State's Freedom of Information law, she believes that she should have received the document that she asked for without any problems. Under the revised New York State Freedom of Information law, McCrory is using a provision that allows for the reimbursement of legal fees when a person substantially prevails in a matter for which the government did not have a reason to deny access. Mamaroneck attorney Glenna told the Journal News that under the village's ethics code, the financial documents, disclosure statements of village officials, had to be locked away and were only to be shown to the members of the Board of Ethics. Therefore, the village thinks that it was not unreasonable to withhold the documents that McCrory was seeking. McCrory's request concerned the financial statement of then Planning Board Chairman Larry Frioli. She knew that he had financial interest in a number of properties within the village, and she wanted to see whether any of the decisions that the board made while he was chairman might have been influenced by his financial holdings. When McCrory made her request, it was first denied by Clerk Treasurer Augustino Fusco. He told her about the village's ethics code that would not allow him to give her the document. Later, village manager Leonard Verastro upheld that decision. McCrory was told about other court decisions where it was held that local governments cannot reduce the rights of a citizen under the Freedom of Information law. When the village was told by the court to hand over the documents, it did so and did not continue the legal fight. McCrory now wants to be reimbursed for the $15,000 she had to spend to hire an attorney to get the information that she was seeking.
If an inconvenient truth grabbed your attention, and even if it didn't, the Sheldrake Environmental Center is bringing it home. Lynn Crowley, who trained with former Vice President Al Gore and environmental experts, will do a slideshow presentation entitled Global Warming and What We Can Do About It. The presentation will focus on how we can make adjustments in our lives to address the serious effects of global warming. According to Marie Venezia, the Sheldrake's executive director, as quoted in the Larchmont Gazette, the event will be held Sunday, March 25th at 3 p.m., and it's part of the Sheldrake Spotlight series.
As we told you a couple of weeks ago, Westchester County's B-Line buses will be switching to Metro cards as of April 1st. On April 1st, customers of the bus system will only be able to use coins or Metro cards to pay for the fare. A MetroCard van is currently touring Westchester, and the Metro cards can be obtained on the van for cash or credit cards. There are also special reduced fare Metro cards for seniors and for people who have disabilities that qualify them for these special cards. In case you cannot meet the van, you can also go to about 50 neighborhood stores and 43 Metro North train stations in Westchester County to obtain the new cards. Furthermore, you can call 914-813-7777 to file an application, or you can also visit the county's website at www.westchester.gov.com. Click on Transportation and select Smart Commute to get more information. Again, as of April 1st, the Beeline buses will only accept Metro cards or coins. How do you give money for school programs without increasing taxes? Mike Witch teaches about the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation and its newest grants.
Almost $280,000 has been promised by the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation for things like books, guest speakers, trout, and kayaks. In the latest round of awards, the foundation recently announced 31 new grants, totaling $277,000 for the 2007-2008 school year. Among the initiatives funded, the Trout in the Classroom Science Program for 7th grade students. Hands-on activities teach about ecosystems and encourage responsibility for the environment. The Sheldrake On-Site Laboratory, a lab and classroom at the Sheldrake Environmental Center, will allow 5th graders from all the schools to explore pond life as part of their Micro World Study Unit. Students at Central School will enjoy Sing a Song of Literacy, which adds a musical component to the core program there. Also supported by the foundation will be an evening series of guest speakers for parents, a program to help Latino students into college, and a poet in residence for special education students at Mamaroneck High School. According to the foundation, there's a significant grant next year to the district to hire an experienced consultant grant writer to apply for funding from corporate and philanthropic foundations for programs such as technology, narrowing achievement gaps, and early literacy. These new awards were announced in the high school's Pace Theater on March the 5th. Also an occasion for the foundation to hear from 4 of last year's award winners. Those at the meeting heard Alicia Noon perform on a new piano purchased by the foundation for their performing arts program. There were also performances by the elementary school Fired Up Fiddlers and a high school string quartet that partnered with the New York Philharmonic through another grant funded by the foundation. The evening also included a video from 2nd graders at Central School. Titled Da Vinci Trunks, it featured the children's artwork, as well as their observations about how studying, drawing, and writing about scientific specimens like insects and skeletons has helped them learn writing, art, and science in the spirit of Leonardo da Vinci. Mamaroneck Schools Foundation President Barbara Henkind says the 31 new grants bring the total number of grants awarded since the start of the foundation in 1996 to over 200, equaling more than $1.75 million in funding for new and innovative programs in all of the district's schools. For a list of the recent awards, contact the district office, 381-2200. The foundation has its own website, mamaroneckschoolsfoundation.org, and you can get details there about past grants and how to donate. If you'd rather call, the phone number for the foundation is 698-9079. That again, 698-9079. For Larchmont and Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Mike Witch.
Dr. Freed and I spoke earlier about modifications to the administrative restructuring proposed for the Mamaroneck School District, but now it's time for the tougher questions. Can you tell me why the big difference of opinion on your proposed administrative restructuring? I mean, from what I saw at the board meeting where you presented it, you had parents supporting it and teachers opposed to it. That's a real, I don't remember seeing that kind of difference of opinion between teachers and parents before in the district.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, it's an interesting and fascinating question. I think that as I proposed the plan, if you remember, I did talk about the reasons that I thought proposing this plan was important. And, that I kind of used the 18 months as a gauge. I had been here that long. I had listened carefully to teachers and to parents. And I thought that in many, many ways, both groups were making compelling cases for why, in fact, we needed some additional administrative assistance in the district. Parents would talk to me about the fact that it was very, very difficult to bring concerns forward at times because there wasn't someone directly connected to the teachers and departments, that assistant principals were always so busy, so was the principal, 4 administrators in a school this large. And so, in fact, thinking about what parents were concerned about having the children challenged, having inclusionary practices work seamlessly, so there was real collaboration between regular education teachers and special education teachers. As I looked at the achievement gap, where when I arrived here, I was given a report to read about an achievement gap committee that had gotten together a task force and presented some information, and yet nothing had gone forward with that. And all of those pieces started to help me think about how to help with that. Now, teachers, through the Teachers Association and meetings with Teachers Association, will actually talk about issues connected with helping our newest teachers, our non-tenured teachers, succeed. And in times when they didn't succeed, we were actually being criticized that we didn't give them enough help and enough support. And another issue that the Teachers Association brought forth very clearly was the need for differentiated professional development, saying that our second-year teachers shouldn't get the same professional development as our teachers who have been here 25 years, and how could we do better with one assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. So in weighing all of those things, I thought the answer really was content area directors who knew the subject area, who could be there to liaison with parents, who could in fact give support to our newest teachers, who could help differentiate professional development because they knew the content area and had lived in the shoes of the department that they'd be working with.
Well,
and for all of those reasons.
Had you heard things about parents wanting more accountability of teachers regarding the curriculum? Was that part of it?
I wouldn't call it accountability so much as alignment between curriculum, making sure there was smooth transitions from grade to grade. There were conversations at times about my child's in the same class as your child in the same, not the same exact classroom, but the same subject, two different teachers.
And completely different
classes seem to be going on. Those kinds of issues were on parents' mind.
And this is in part to remedy this.
Exactly. And you asked me why the Great Divide, of course. That was really the question. So in explaining what prompted me to bring the initiative forward, I think the Great Divide is that as I've listened carefully to teachers, I was actually at a meeting with the high school math department. It was an hour and a half I spent with them after school just the other day. I think there's a real concern on the part of teachers that the wrong person is going to come into their department and is going to mandate all of these unreasonable changes, act in a way that's going to cause them harm in some way, almost threaten their ability to make decisions for themselves, to work collaboratively with each other. And that's not what I'm proposing at all. And I talked to them at great length about that. What I'm proposing is someone who's going to work collaboratively, who's going to be supporting their practices, who can support their professional development, who can help our youngest teachers, and who can help our tenured teachers as well. Our tenured teachers go through a cycle of an improvement cycle, so to speak, in terms of evaluation, and they do projects and collaborative projects, and yet our present administration doesn't really have the time to thoughtfully sit with them, work on those projects with them, evaluate and give them feedback on those projects. They'd have people in their departments to now do that.
On the other hand, you have, from what I heard from teachers, there was a concern that there was going to be someone else looking over their shoulder. The new directors will be doing their evaluations and making decisions about tenure, and that seemed to be of great concern.
Right. Well, I would think, if I was a non-tenured teacher, that I would prefer to have someone who, in fact, understands my work. If I'm a high school physics teacher, if I'm a math teacher, and I have an assistant principal who's maybe an English major who comes into my science classroom, into my math classroom, I would much prefer to have somebody who, in fact, has walked in my shoes, knows the content area.
Okay. Now, you talked about meetings with teachers. One of the big criticisms here was that teachers were kind of the last to find out in some respects. There were teachers who found out about the proposal by reading ads in the New York Times. And I know that at the meeting you addressed this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. It wasn't so much an apology as an explanation as to why it was done top-down instead of more collaboratively. Has that been smoothed over, and why was it done the way you did it?
Sure. Well, let me just say that if teachers found out because they read it in the New York Times, they either didn't read the email that I put out long before the ad went into the New York Times, and they also weren't, of course, part of the culture of the building because it was talked about, as you can imagine, at great length the moment the news came out. I did email the entire staff about the proposal. The next step was to write a letter to our parents And then the third step was, in fact, to publish the ad, so to speak, in Times, looking for the candidates. And so why was it done that way? Well, first of all, it was an apology, because it is not my style to be top-down. I think that the teachers that I have met with in all the departments that I've been invited to, my style that has been there with the Teachers Association, and the last 30 years of my career, including 2 principalships, an assistant superintendent position, and so on, that has not been my style. So why a decision like this? Well, I felt that in the position and the role I have, and in reading all the information that was gathered from the community in terms of what they were looking for in a superintendent, what things they hope to be able to change, in my conversation with the teachers and with the parents, I felt that this was the right time to, in fact, bring forth an initiative that would start people talking about changing the culture of the school district. There is a culture in the school district that, in fact, says that we're terrific, and I also think says, though, that we're good enough. And I think that no matter how good we are, and I think we're a great school district, we're successful with kids, we send kids to great colleges, no matter how successful we are, I think we can grow and become better. And I think we needed something to nudge us in that direction.
So that doesn't explain doing it top-down. Was it a timing thing?
Well, I think, in fact, in order to try, in fact, to bring this kind of initiative forward in a different kind of way would have taken years. And I don't think the district should have to wait years in order to move toward a more excellent school district.
So were you prepared for the reaction that you got from teachers?
I wasn't surprised about some of the reaction. I would hope, though, and I'm counting on that everyone, of course, being professional, being good at their jobs, is going to continue to do their very best for the children in the district, and understanding that, in fact, there is sometimes a need for a push in a direction, and hopefully from this point forward, there'd be the willingness to work collaboratively with me, with the other administrators as we go forward.
And have you been getting that kind of cooperation so far?
Well, I think so. I think, again, that our teachers are professionals. They've been very respectful. They have, of course, voiced their opinion. I understand that. But if, for example, at the math meeting for an hour and a half, while people voice their concerns, I talked to them very specifically about the concerns. One teacher, for example, talked about, as I mentioned before, someone coming in and doing all of these things, which to me just sounded dreadful, like this person doing this. And I said to the group, I said, imagine that you went to sleep tonight and you woke up tomorrow morning and suddenly you all had bestowed upon you administrative degrees. And now you, in fact, could be a person that comes into your very nice math department and your terrific math department and, in fact, has the job of supporting teachers. Would you become this tyrant you're afraid of? Where, in fact, do you think we're going to come up with this person? The interview process is totally transparent. The math department and the people on the interview committee, which are teachers and parents, they're going to, in fact, get all of the resumes. I'm not keeping any back. They're going to get all of those resumes. They're going to screen the resumes. They're going to screen the people. They're going to do extensive interviews with those they want to bring back. They're going to recommend 2 people to me. I'll interview them. I'll go back to the committee. We'll talk about who the best choice is. It's all out there in the open.
Okay.
So they're going to be helping pick that hopefully terrific person.
Now, while I said before that most parents seem to support the idea, what I have heard from other parents, a concern is many of them would seem to prefer smaller classes.
Mm-hmm.
I know many people who complain about class sizes 28, 30 kids in an accelerated class, and that's a big class. How do you respond to that concern?
Well, I respond to it by saying that I'm also for smaller classes. But there are certain aspects of smaller class size that we have to be aware of. First of all, there's a lot of research about class size. And there's none to support, in fact, that a class of 25 succeeds better than a class of 28. I know it feels better, but in fact, unless the teacher changes their teaching methodology and does something differently, lecturing, for example, to 28 as opposed to 25 doesn't necessarily change the outcome.
But going below 25. Isn't there evidence about smaller class size, whether it's 20, I don't know what the right number is an important factor in the education of a student?
The research that's been done has been done in the elementary education, and it's been done K through 3, and it's
hasn't been
class
done
size
higher.
of 18 below. I think that, again, if teachers want to make the argument that if they in fact had much lower class size, they were going to then teach in cooperative groups and in small kinds of instructional settings and so on, and if in fact the community is behind those kinds of initiatives, I'm certainly there. It's a matter of can we pay for it.
Okay, and speaking of which, I have one, I'm sorry, we're running out of time, but I have one last question. The financial impact of all these changes on the budget. In terms, you proposed a budget that I think 6.6% tax hike?
It's actually going down just a little bit, but
Roughly
that's
that.
6.4 something at this point.
Okay, I assume that you would tell me that that's about average for comparable districts in the area?
It's in the ballpark.
Okay.
Yes.
What percentage of the budget tax increase is allocated or due to these changes, if you've done that math?
I really haven't.
You don't?
I really haven't. But the entire package, so to speak, I think we talked about somewhere in the neighborhood of between either 250 and 350,000, depending on if the directors teach a period or
Right.
not. And, again, not to minimize that amount of money because it's significant.
But what's the whole budget?
But the whole budget is very close right now to $112 million. And so it is, something in the hundredths of a percent of the entire budget. It is for the impact that I believe it will make, I think it is well worth the cost.
Okay. Love the local public libraries? Can't get enough of your LMC-TV? Mike Witch knows how you can support both.
LMC-TV will honor Larchmont and Mamaroneck libraries at the station's annual Sunny Award fundraising dinner Sunday, April 22nd at the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club. Mike Charles, president of the station's board, says our libraries are not just about books, they are vital, exciting places that offer lectures, classes, and cultural nourishment. He adds they've also done a great job keeping up with technology. The Sunny Award is named for one of LMC-TV's founding board members and biggest supporters, Sonny Goldberg. In the past 9 years, the award has been given to dozens of individuals who've shown a steadfast commitment to the Larchmont-Mamaroneck community. Mike Charles points to the current building initiatives of both libraries. Mamaroneck has unveiled plans for a multi-million-dollar expansion, and Larchmont is renovating its children's book department. Says Charles, a library improves the lives of the community it serves by providing unlimited access to knowledge, and the Larchmont-Mamaroneck libraries, he says, exemplify this commitment. We should note that LMC-TV has one of its 2 studios in the Mamaroneck Library Emmelin Theater Complex. LMC-TV is inviting everyone to join in celebrating the Larchmont and Mamaroneck Libraries' commitment to access Sunday, April 22nd, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club. Tickets are $80. That includes cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, and dinner. For more information, contact LMC-TV's Associate Director, Jessica Pazzuoli, 381-2002, 381-2002. Reporting for Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Mike Witch.
Don Lewis has a sweet story for all you chocoholics out there.
It's 4,000 years old. The Aztecs worshipped it as a god. Christopher Columbus was the first European to taste it, and he found it quite bitter. Somewhere along the line, the problem, of course, of taste was solved by adding sugar to it. The Spanish explorer Hernán Cortés introduced it to the rest of the world. It was only used as a beverage until the Dutch turned it into a food in 1828, but it was a man named Milton that put it on the map. His name was Milton Hershey, and of course, I'm talking about chocolate. We're here at one of the newest retail members of the Mamaroneck family on Mamaroneck Avenue, Chocolations, and we're here with the owner, Mrs. Maria Valenti. How did you learn to become a chocolatier?
I certainly did not learn it in school. I went to law school, so I did not learn anything about making chocolate there. I did, however, recently just go to the French Culinary Institute, where I took a very intensive chocolate course and learned a great deal about making chocolates. These are my peanut butter truffles. Right here are cherry almond truffles. Here are some bonbons. These are a maple cream bonbon that haven't been decorated yet. My son is a police officer right here in Mamaroneck Village, and he comes in after his shift in the mornings and has his breakfast. And my daughter is a great help to me. She comes in after, she's a teacher, and she comes in after she's finished with school and helps me tremendously. Okay, this is Christopher Graves, and he is a culinary student at Monroe College in New Rochelle, and he's been with me right from the very beginning. I think he's the first person I hired, and I am delighted to have him. He is helping me a great deal with baking and comes up with new ideas every day. I feel like I've been very blessed in having gotten some great training in starting this business from the Women's Enterprise Development Center. And through them, I was able to find out about the Eileen Fisher grant. And Eileen Fisher, who is a clothing designer here in Westchester, gives a $10,000 grant to 5 women every year, and I was fortunate enough to be one of them. So in my way of giving back, for what Eileen has done for me, is to take in other women's products and sell them and try to help their businesses grow. So along those lines, I have Amy Milano, who calls herself the Big Girl Baking Company, and she does phenomenal savory cookies as well as this sweet and savory spicy nut mix. Then I have Chris Ann, who is local here in Mamaroneck, and she's doing a lot of baking for me. She does cookies, she does pound cake. Then I have Kathy Schauber, who has Kathy's specialty biscottis, and they're wonderful. Down here is Suzanne Sweets, and Suzanne is up in Mount Kisco. She's doing phenomenally well. She was actually named as one of Crane's top 100 corporate gifts this past holiday season. So all these women are my little team.
Well, we want to thank you very much, Maria Valenti, for LMC-TV Community News. Here at Chocolation, I'm Don Lewis.
Almost anything goes, according to Mike Witch.
Hey, video producers out there, you've got until May 11th to create your masterpiece and then enter it into LMC-TV's Almost Anything Goes Festival. Why bother, you ask? Well, because it's fun, and because you may win cash, even the grand prize, a video camera donated by Cablevision of Westchester. This is our community television's 8th annual short video festival. Categories are arranged by age group and subject areas. Comedy, art and music, documentary, and drama are just a few. The contest is open to anyone who lives, works, or goes to school in Larchmont, Mamaroneck, and Rhinebeck. Winning programs will be screened at the Emlyn Theater on May 24th. Visit lmc-tv.org for more information and an entry form, or call the office at 381-2002, extension 202. That number again, 381-2002. Reporting for Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Mike Witch.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Maura Carlin. We'll see you next week.